Cafe Sola says, does God remove difficult people from our lives, or does he allow difficult people in our lives? Some say they don't have enough emotional energy for difficult people. Oh, I see where you're going with that. So the idea is like I'm going to use the semi-gospel that God is for me, not against me. Therefore, my life is going to be laid out before me in his predestiny to mean that I'm never going to have trials. And so when I run into someone who is a trial, I give myself the freedom to not have mercy on that person, right? And I use my theology, my knowledge of my freedom as a Christian to be loveless a little bit, right? That's maybe the danger here. At the same time, there is, you pity the fool doesn't mean, hang out with the fool. You don't follow the fool. You don't walk on the road with the fool. You get away from the fool. So there's also a wisdom that does exist in Scripture, which is to say that if this difficult person is acting the fool, I really don't owe them more than whatever my duty would be to them. And that duty is going to have cultural ramifications, right? And sometimes you're maybe free to realize that the duty that's being required of you in that culture isn't really a duty. It's not really from God, right? So you don't have to do it that way. Elbows on the table or whatever. Like it's polite, but like you can do what you want when you leave the family home. But then when you're there, when you're back home, do you put your elbows on the table when mom doesn't want it there? Right. And so, and mom's, the point in this story would be that mom's like really difficult and you're doing your duty by being there and listening to her anyway. Right. How do I then in that space best act as a Christian? I'm somewhere with someone I don't want to be with. It doesn't mean that just because I'm going to be charitable to this person, I'm going to show them mercy, I'm going to give them calm and a witness for Christ if I can. It doesn't mean I'm going to put myself back in that situation tomorrow, right? And so, the freedom of a Christian here, you have freedom to act in a way that you believe is right. You're not ever going to get away from all of the sick, broken, foolish people. You're one of them. You're not going to get away from you either. Right. So again, this idea that, I don't have enough emotional energy to deal with these people. Well, maybe you should go take a nap. That's true. Maybe indeed you're in an argument with your husband right now because you didn't take a nap today and you should have because you stayed up way too late last night. That's possible. But you don't get to say, I don't feel like dealing with life right now, so I'm not going to. Like, that's not a Christian option at all. Like, you don't get to say, I don't like the emotions that I have in this conversation, so I'm going to be rude. Right? You don't get that option. Rather, instead, what you want to do is strive to be the best spirit that you can in every situation that you're in. And if you feel that you don't have the capacity to do good where you are, well, then indeed, move to somewhere else where you can build that capacity, right? But do it as one who is a follower of Jesus, a Christian, right? So interesting question just again about how do you deal with difficult people, or as a Christian, do you get to say, I don't have to, I don't have the energy to deal with these people, I'm going to go over here instead. And it's not like a one-off answer. Again, it calls for wisdom. There's a time and a place to walk away from the fool. There's a time and a place to do your duty in civil society.
Yeah, that's kind of that question, not knowing what's behind it is a little tricky.
Right.
Because, like you said, in one scenario, it could be one thing, and in another, it could be a totally different one.
But I get the impression from it that the idea is like this person's saying, oh, I just don't have the emotional energy for, dealing with people. I'm this kind of person, and I need this much recovery time, and so I don't have to do this. And like, well, I mean, if life's in front of you, like, it's your duty to deal with it. You don't get to say you're special and so you don't have to suffer.
Yeah.
Like, and then blame someone else for the suffering, right? But yeah, if you need some alone time, go take some alone time,
Right.
That too. Yeah.
And I think that we've lost a little bit of the concept of what suffering is for us, especially as Christians. Mm-hmm. The idea of rejoicing in our suffering is something that today we don't we don't want. It's all about how can I avoid suffering? How can I avoid trial? And Scripture points us to the concept of our suffering being a gift that then draws us closer to Christ and strengthens our faith and creates a reliance upon him that is deeper than it would have been without the suffering.
Right.
And so therefore we can say thank you for the fact that I don't want to deal with these people, but I have to anyway.
I do so intend, Deo Volente,
Deo
to deal
Volente.
with these people. Yeah. You don't get to escape the suffering. That's the,
Because when does it stop? Like, when does that mentality stop? And as a woman, I look at it through the eyes of having children. So maybe this person who's asking this question is in college right now or single. Well, at what point do you feel like you've matured enough that you then can deal with challenging people? Because your family, the gifts you are going to be given from your own body, will be challenging people.
Right.
In the most difficult way, because they're going to have both your best attributes and your worst. And so you're going to have to look your worst attributes in the face and deal with them. And so, like, at what point do we say, buck up,
Yeah.
pull up your big kid pants and go to war?
Yeah, a little bit, for sure.
But at the same time, like, do I have to let this bully text me into submission from across the country? No, put the phone down. Like, you don't have to allow that.
Right.
You don't have to deal with that person.
That's really well said. Yeah, that's right. But you probably do have to deal with your actual neighbor because he lives next door.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to deal with him. Like, and maybe you should spend more time thinking about that than about all the other stuff far away.